Welcome to the Tech Panel.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The podcast where tech minds meet.
Oh hey, before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell.
Welcome to the Tech Panel. I'm your host, Arvin.
And I'm Sarah Bowers, and today we're delving into the world of fintech with a new service that's disrupting the industry.
Imagine a world where buying or selling goods and services is free from the fear of scams or late payments. Whether you're a tradie, an online seller, or small business owner, getting paid is crucial, and that's where IPromise comes in. By bringing escrow services into the digital age, IPromise is disrupting the industry, making secure transactions easier and more accessible than ever before.
No more handshake deals or risky transactions, just a smarter, safer way to do business. Joining us now is co-founder Paul Veric and Arvin. I promise it's going to be a good episode. This is the Tech Panel.
Paul, welcome to the show. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, great, thanks. It's great to be here.
Oh, we're absolutely happy to have you on board.
Thank you for joining us from New Zealand.
Yes, all the way from New Zealand.
Yes. Firstly, tell us a little bit about IPromise. So, I mean, you've said that this is the app that brings the security and fairness of escrow to everyday goods and services transactions. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so IPromise is just bringing the concept of escrow, which is a really old concept that developed in around the 1500s. And it's known to be super safe for both parties when there's a transaction made. So it's safe for the supplier, and it's really, really safe for the customer. And we've automated that process and brought it to your phone. It's as simple as that. Lots of people will recognise escrow from buying and selling a house. So, you know, the money's given to the lawyer to hold on to. The lawyer, when its conditions are satisfied and the title's been transferred, the money's released. And we all know, if you've been part of that transaction, it's super safe. No money, no house, no house, no money. So it's a deal that just doesn't fall over when the conditions are met. So it's it just provides that security for people.
Nice.
And I guess in Australia, we don't really use the word escrow that much. Like it's, you know, is it more of an American term? Is it the same in New Zealand?
Yeah, it's not a term widely known. People in financial circles know it. We don't use it, a huge amount, because sometimes it does confuse people. But it's the principles of that concept of the two parties balancing that power of payment. So no one party's got more power than someone else, which is where things go wrong. If a client or a customer is withholding money from a supplier who's done the job, then they hold the power in that instance. Or if you're giving a deposit to a builder or a tradie or someone, then again, you've lost that power because you've given some money without actually having received any service. So the beauty of escrow is it just makes it 50-50. So it's, so super simple.
So it goes to that third party to, just that middle ground there. Tell me how it works from the back end, I guess. If someone, sure. Give me a real case example.
So a real case example is I'm a builder and I'm going to build you a fence. And I'll come to your house and I'll look at what I'm going to build you. And I might determine it's going to cost $2,000. So I'll send you a quote. I'll build a quote within the IPromise system, just like you'd build a quote in Xero or any other software. And I'd send you that quote. That quote would pop up in your email, and you would open it, and it would say it's from me. It would have the amount. It would have all the details, the materials all listed out. I can attach photos. And I simply click a button which says Pay Now. And I go through to a payment screen, which is processed in our case by Wincave, which is a really well-known international payment provider. And the details are already captured. The amount's captured, the particulars, the references are all captured. I don't enter a bank account. I simply log into my bank and pay the amount. And as the supplier or the builder, I know that you've paid. I can see it sitting in the trust account. It's nice and safe. So I can start work knowing that I don't have to really think or guess, have you got the money? Are you going to pay me? Can you even afford it? I can go ahead with the security knowing that I've got the money in escrow ready to drop when I do the job. So I come to your house, I build you this amazing fence. And at the end of the job, which can be on site, I click a button in the app, which sends you a notification, says, hey, I've completed the fence. Do you agree? And if you click the button that says, yes, you agree, the money goes into my account.
Yeah.
So rather than waiting till the 20th of the month or going home and doing an invoice back at back at my house with my invoicing software, I simply click a button, and if you agree, it goes into my bank. So super simple, super safe. And the only admin that I've done is to send you a quote within the system. The rest is all taken care of.
Do you mind if I paraphrase that really quick? Just make sure some of our non-technical listeners are still on board.
Sure.
Help me. Tell me if I got any of this correct. Someone who's not specializing in any of this. What you're saying is escrow in American terminology. The phrase I'm more familiar with in Australia is trust accounts, right?
Yes.
What this does is essentially make it so if you want to provide a service to someone, what you don't want is to take the risk of building something for someone and find out on the other end they don't have the money and they never intended to pay you or can't pay you for whatever reason. What this does is it says, I will do the work for you, but first you must leverage this third party, which is IPromise. You input the funds into this account so I can validate that they're actually available. And if you can prove that I did complete the job correctly, the funds get transferred. So it takes the risk away from anyone saying, I don't actually have the money, or I was doing something nefarious, but it protects the buyer and the supplier in both instances.
It protects both parties,
That's
because
right.
if you weren't happy with that job, I guess, or they didn't deliver what was promised,
That's right.
then your money is with that third party as well, and you have to approve that before it goes to that end. So yeah, I think I see the benefit as well from both ends, and I see that the contractor's going to want to do a good job.
True.
Because they need to be paid, and that makes complete sense.
I'm curious, if I'm the person that owns the service, is there a weighting average that like leans closer towards the person who owns the service? Like, try to imagine here, right? I say I'm going to build a fence for someone, and I build the fence for someone, and then the other person says not good enough. Like, because I'm the service owner, like, can I be like, but I built the fence? Like, what is good enough truly? How do you put the balance in there? And at the end of the day, who's determining, or how is it determining who's going to get the money back?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's even better than it is today, because in this instance today, when you build the fence and you're asking someone to pay, they've got the power because they've got the money. Whereas in this case, the money's left the person's bank account, so they can't actually get it back.
Yeah.
So as the customer, I can't say, oh, I don't like the fence, I'm taking the money back. The only way they can get the money back is with your agreement. So being the middle person in this transaction, IPromise, holding those funds, is the psyche of the customer is completely different, because they've effectively have paid for it. It's gone out of their bank account. So the resistance to not accept that the job's done is completely gone. And in all the millions of dollars that we've transacted already through the platform, we've had no disputes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we will never get any, but the likelihood is so much less because you've agreed on the price up front. The other thing that's a little bit different is because the price is agreed beforehand, there's no surprise for the customer. And I don't know if you've ever had work done in your house or anything, but sometimes they say it might be around $5,000 and you get a bill for $6,000.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a bit of a dispute and a bit of contention. But because you've agreed and you've deposited that money, it's really simple to release. The other thing that we've built into the app is a rate and review. So a bit like Uber, a bit like buy and sell websites. When you've finished the transaction, you're rating the other party and building up a bit of a profile. And so people want to be good people and good citizens on the platform. They want a good reputation. They don't want to get a bad rating. So releasing the funds quickly and promptly, and being reasonable about that, just happens as part and course of the site. The average release time is interesting. It's 4 hours from the time the job's finished. So we think 4 hours is pretty impressive compared to waiting
28
weeks.
days and then the overdue.
Yeah, it's overdue debit, all that stuff. So we're really proud of a 4 hour average release time.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, to me, it sounds like, why wasn't this done earlier? Like,
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
why aren't the banks doing something like that if they could, I guess, quite easily have a trust account? Why don't banks take on that role?
Yeah, it's a super good question, and I think some people have tried to do things a little bit similar than this in the past, and we've done a bit of investigation around some of the historical models of this. The technology 20 years ago, without smartphones and without fast banking and 7-day-a-week banking, sort of made it a bit more difficult to
Sure.
to actually create an escrow solution like we have. The other part of it is that the industry's just conditioned into this almost like robotic 20th of the month cycle. So often small businesses, they do the job, they go home. At the end of the month, they sit in their office, or their partner does, or their accounts person goes through and does all the invoices and sends them out at the end of the month, because that's just what they did, and what the person before them did.
Yeah.
And then they wait and they cross their fingers and hope that that money will come in on the 20th. So there's this indoctrinated acceptance that having a small business means that you take on the risk of payment from your customer. Your responsibility for your customer to have finance and pay, and it's your responsibility, and you've got no right to expect and demand to get that payment in a timely fashion. And so what we're doing is we're reconditioning and re-educating and getting people to understand that, no, you deserve to be paid immediately. Just like you have to pay when you buy groceries, or when you go and fill up your car with
You book
petrol.
an airline ticket or something like that. I haven't got the product yet, but I'm willing to pay to book
Totally.
it. You know,
Airline
to have
tickets
that experience later.
is the classic. You know, you might be going to Hawaii in September. Now you pay all of that up front and you hand it over to the airline. It's not an escrow. It goes straight to the airline for them to do what they want. So if it's good enough for Qantas or Air New Zealand, it surely should be good enough for a small business who relies on this to feed their family and pay their bills.
Yeah, well, I mean, the cash flow of small businesses, that is one of the reasons why a lot do go out of business, is that they can't manage that cash flow. And also following up on late payments or non-payments in general as well. There's a lot of time, effort, admin that goes into that sort of thing. So this is a great solution for that. I guess the business came about because of your co-founder had a small business and you know, was like, there's got to be a better way. I'm sick of following up late payments. Is that how it all came about?
Yeah, 100%. So my co-founder's a consultant engineer, civil engineer. So he does calculations for retaining walls and beams and residential houses. And he worked for himself as a consultant for 25 years. And he lost tens of thousands of dollars. So either through companies liquidating, customers just not paying and not having the money, and having to chase them up and taking them to court to try and get that money. So he's lost so much money as a result of this retrospective invoicing system. And engineers are curious and problem solvers, and he's certainly one of those. And he thought, gosh, there's got to be a much better way of doing this. And being on building sites with architects and builders and plumbers and electricians, there's a lot of chat about unpaid bills.
Everyone's
and
like, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat. Yeah.
It's not just my problem, it's everyone's problem. And so that's when he started investigating different solutions and came across escrow. And then he approached me and said, hey, look, would you be interested in helping solve this problem? And after a bit of investigation and doing some research around what was in the market, it actually became a bit of a no-brainer that this is solving a problem that no one really has solved properly, and it needs to be solved for the fairness and security of payments, you know, around the world. This isn't just a problem in Australia and New Zealand, it's a problem around the world.
On that note as well, I guess you said, you know, years ago people weren't doing, you know, they weren't looking at this as an option. I think now as well, maybe culturally, we're used to handing money over online, you know, online shopping. We're much more comfortable with that sort of thing now. So I feel like now might be, if this launched 10 years ago, people might still be a bit more skeptical about it, or feel a bit uneasy about, you know, putting that money over to a third party. But now, you know, I buy something on Amazon, I definitely don't have the product in my hand. I wait for it, presuming it's going to get here. I'm used to that now. So, you know, I'm quite happy to pay up front for something, whereas years ago it was like, I'm never going to pay up front for anything if I haven't got the service yet, I haven't got the product.
Totally. And even in an indirect way, though, we have been doing it for a long time. Concert tickets, sports events, you know, it's just really about the industry that's done a good job of conditioning their customers to pay. And yet the small business and the invoicing sector just keep putting up with it. There's I guess more scams, there's more liquidations, there's more uncertainty about payment. Unfortunately, there seems to be more dishonest people around transactions and paying for things. And so when that happens, people are looking for a much more secure and stable way to to manage their own finances, but also to improve their cash flow.
On that note as well about, the scams that are out there and people managing that sort of thing. I know this is a great tool for small business, but is it also something that, like, say I could use if I was buying something on a Facebook marketplace, or, something where I was selling something at a market, or I don't know, something like that, where I wanted to have that third party involvement so I don't get ripped off and so that I actually get the product that I'm after?
Absolutely. The beauty of escrow is it works for any transaction.
Okay.
And so we built it in mind not only for people invoicing, but also for people who are trading higher value items over the internet. So Facebook Marketplace is a classic example. Buying a car, it might be in a different state or region to where you live. You see the price, you're like, that's great, I want it. You bid on it, you win it. And the person says, when you coming to get it, you might say, I'll be there on Saturday. Well, I want a deposit. I want some security to say that you're going to pick this up. You're left with a dilemma. Is it a picture of a car? Is it a real person? Am I going to drive there and no one's going to meet me? Why am I putting money into this bank account?
Yeah.
But they also want to know that you're serious. If they're going to take the listing down, they don't want to take it down and know that you don't turn up.
Yeah.
So with our system, you'd send a quote for the value of the car. Let's say it's $10,000. You would pay the money. The seller knows you're serious. The seller knows you can afford it. You know that you've protected the trade. You get a ride to wherever the car is. You check it out. And if it checks out, you release the money and you drive home. So we talk about this thing that we call transaction chicken, which is, in lots of trades, it's who blinks first. Do I give the goods? Do I get the money? Who's going to take the risk?
Who's taking the risk? Yeah. It's either end that are taking a risk. Yeah, for sure. Do you find, sorry, Yarvin, you've probably got a question there, I am curious because if people aren't aware currently of IPromise, surely that people are skeptical. People are skeptical of things like a third-party payment system. Like I would be if someone said, hey, buy this from Marketplace, or here, put your money into this account. It's an escrow account. Like, oh, really, is it? And especially in Australia, I don't think we're not that used to escrow. So, I think there would be people that would be very cautious. Is that something that you've found is the case? Like there is still the skepticism around it?
Sometimes people ask about, what's the setup and how does IPromise work, and what's, is there a trust account? Is there a trust deed? Who holds that trust account, and all those sorts of things. And the financial markets and the financial services are really highly regulated. So in order to be in this market, full stop, there's a number of hurdles that you have to reach. So even to have a trust account is really challenging. So we're lucky enough to have partnered with the BNZ Bank in New Zealand. And so they allow us to say that we've partnered with them, that it's a BNZ trust account, which adds a lot of credibility because they're one of the major banks. And then we have to have all the necessary financial registrations, which are public. So you can look up on the Financial Services Registrar and register, and you can see that IPromise is there. You can see who the directors are. You can see that we meet the necessary obligations around complaints. So we have to be registered with the Financial Complaints Authority. And then we're bound by the Department of Internal Affairs and the Anti-Money Laundering Counter-Financing of Terrorism Act. And so we have to make sure we comply with that. So once you start to layer in the various things which we can all prove and are publicly disclosable, that people get a lot of comfort from saying, oh, actually, this is legitimate. This is a company that's backed by large parties. This does meet all the financial regulations and hurdles. And so therefore, it's a lot safer than actually doing business with someone and handing money over to someone whose account it's literally going into for them to do whatever they want with. So yes, sometimes there's questions, but the majority of the time, once people dig and look at the way that we've set up the system, it's super fair and it's secure because the money's in a trust account. It's not going into anyone's personal bank account, and we can't do anything except act on the instruction of the two parties. So again, that gives people a lot of comfort around how the system's set up. Because we're also bound by the Anti-Money Laundering Counter-Financing of Terrorism Act, that's about ensuring that we know who the people are using the platform. And so we have to do biometric identification to make sure that we know that the people who are using the platform are real people.
Okay.
And so if you are someone who's dishonourable or trying to pretend to be someone that you're not, you can't actually use our platform. You also can't use our platform if it's cash. It can only be used by, at the moment, a New Zealand bank account. And so therefore we know the transaction's really transparent and also traceable. And so people aren't doing illegal or illicit things on our site because it's way too much visibility. So all of those things give people a real high level of confidence that it's a safe, secure system, and it's much safer and much secure than the current way that they're doing their transactions. So we're really comfortable, and as a result of that, we're getting business through the platform.
The question my mind immediately goes to is, what is the actual scalability of a solution like this? Right? I mean, I'd have to imagine the biggest barrier for most people is there's usually a cost associated with these things, and people would say, if I'm going to buy like Domino's online, I want to make sure they deliver my pizza, but is an escrow service really worth it to make sure that they come there? Because how much is it going to cost to pay for this service to get that level of protection? And the same exact thing I imagine applies to the average person who's like, I want a guy to like mow my lawn, I want him to do a good job. But again, like, what is the impact on the user to take advantage of a service like this? And maybe the better question to ask here is, what is the target market? Where does this become viable to the user and the end user on the market?
So there's a few
questions in there.
The first thing I'll answer is around affordability and cost and value. And for us, we wanted to make it super affordable so that when it's not perceived that we're clipping the ticket on every transaction. So we don't take commission on the transactions. We charge a subscription to use our service, much like Xero.
Great.
So, and it's $20, $40, or $90 a month plus GST. So really, really affordable for even smaller transactions when you consider the cost to chase up invoices, ringing up, hey, where's that invoice you owe me? The administration in terms of asking for or sending repeat reminders, and that payment admin, which is really niggly for small businesses or for any businesses for that matter. So the cost is really affordable. For those who are trading on a goods basis, so buying or selling a car, it's just a flat fee of $10.
Okay.
So that flat fee to give someone peace of mind that their money is secure right throughout the trade, and from the seller's perspective is that they are going to get paid when they deliver the goods, means that it's a really affordable value proposition for people. The scalability question that you asked, which is a really good one, is around the market size is just phenomenal. And that's a little bit of the challenge for us, is because anyone who invoices can use us, from a freelancer, from a builder to a plumber to a consultant engineer to a web developer. Anyone who invoices can use us, and anyone that sells items, goods to someone else can also use it. So we're at the moment, we've been launched 2 years, and to be fair, we're getting trades from all different corners of that market at the moment. So we've secondhand, like a $8,000 motorbike, or a tiny home, or a web developer, or a freelancer, or a contractor. So there's been no one real market that's emerged at the moment, and that's a blessing and a curse, because the market size is huge. But also it makes it a challenge for us, and where do we actually market these services to, and who do we market them to as a priority?
I really wish I had heard this before I'd recently purchased a motorbike, where I was looking at this exact service. Not your particular brand, forgive me. It's only available in New Zealand. Is that correct?
It's correct. At the moment.
Yeah. That was my next question, was about the scalability globally. But anyway, you go first.
And I mean, look at these prices.
Escrow.com. Yeah, I have heard of escrow.com. That was the only other one that I have heard of. And I did think that PayPal had some sort of service, but I think escrow.com could tie into PayPal. Like, you could pay via the escrow.com sort of add-on in PayPal. That was the only other sort of option that I had heard of, to have that third party holding the money until the goods are received.
And it was hundreds of dollars on the cheapest end and thousands of dollars on the more average side of things. And I just thought to myself, man, the seller's never going to let me use this service. They're just going to be like, no, I'm not getting involved in that. Like, you can take it or you can leave it. But if you had a simple service as yours, like
$10 per
infinitely
purchase.
more accessible to the average everyday person out there, just wants peace of mind that my money's not going into the ether and that's the end of it. Like, banks even tell you before you buy it, like, this all risk is on you, whatever you're about to do.
Can you, I guess, scale it out to Australia, or where are you looking at going next? And is it all to do with the financial regulations in that country and setting up those sorts of systems?
So we absolutely have got plans to scale, and a lot of New Zealand SaaS companies tend to start in New Zealand, go to Australia, then the UK tends to be a common sense model, and that's certainly the model that we're undertaking. And the beauty of it is that because it is so simple, it is completely scalable. There are some different regulations in different countries, but that in terms of cost and setup is small compared to to a business who is manufacturing a piece of machinery in different countries or producing something. So from a SaaS perspective, it's really easy to scale. It's a super simple platform. It's already up and built. So for us, our targets and our aspirations for IPromise are certainly large, and the way it's going at the moment, we're certainly got our eyes on Australia and later on the UK for sure.
It seems like the car market would be like the no-brainer here. Most Australians
like to team up with a carsales.com or something like that and be there, almost like that middleman in terms of that transaction.
Well, we all buy cars from in a different state. You never get to see it, and a lot of people are like, "You got to fly there," and I'm like, "Oh, come on!"
Yeah. And you're in some parking lot somewhere or a supermarket car park, and you're checking phone screenshots to make sure that that. Look, I've sent the money. It's on my phone, and you have all these sorts of things, and yet you still have everyone's got a horror story themselves, or know someone really close to them who hasn't been paid or who has been scammed. That's how common it is. So it's not a.
No, did you get scammed recently?
I totally did.
What's your story?
Well, I bought a motorbike. You're gonna love this story. I bought a Ducati, and it was it's too good to be true deal, and I was like, I've got to jump on this opportunity. I'm doing it, and I was like, I called the guy, and I was like, I want it, and I want to get it sent to a Ducati dealership to get checked, and he's like, oh, we're a dealership, we've got all of our records here, and we'll send you the invoice for the service check. And I was like, awesome, who am I to say no? Like, it says everything in the letterhead. And I got the bike, and I was like, I'm still taking this to my local dealership to get a look over, because those are the people that I trust. And so
you bought the bike, though, the money exchange, you
I
actually
paid.
got the product.
Yep. I got the bike, and the service department opened up the engine, and whoever had sold him the bike had wrote a note on the inside of the engine saying, this is a lemon. This is what is actually wrong with the engine. Yeah. And there were all these problems that you would never been able to tell unless you'd start writing it or done a full service like I did. But no one ever does that. You know what I mean? And we exchanged some words, and I got the money back, which was great. But I would have never had this fear if I had literally had the ability to take out my phone, take a photo of, like, look what I just found on the inside of this engine. There's no way I'm releasing the funds to you. Like, this is a dodgy sale. And, like, that could have just fixed everything.
Yeah, like you could have said, hey, here, I'm good for the money. I'm putting it in IPromise because it means that this guy's like, great, he's a serious buyer, taking it off the market. He wants to do a check on it. That's fine. Do your check. And then you're happy. Let's transact.
Yeah. But I mean, this is what people do all day, every single day, because we just don't have the time or the resources. Like, if you live in a different state, you need the vehicle. That's the only place where you can get at the price that you can actually afford to get whatever it is you're after. You're definitely not going to be flying out there to inspect one vehicle, because you probably got to do this with like 3 or 4 other vehicles at the same exact time. Now it's becoming just ridiculous. But like, yeah, I'm blown away that you offer a service and it's limited in New Zealand. I just feel like
it makes complete sense to have it available,
worldwide.
But and I'm surprised that it doesn't already exist. I don't know why the banks don't do something like that and offer that service. Like when I do a CommBank Pay or what's the one where you pay through your phone number? A Pay ID. A Pay ID payment or something like that. Why that's not just held until you receive the item anyway. It makes total sense to me. What are some of the restrictions, though, from your business expanding? For example, the one thing that I thought might be an issue is, let's say I'm a freelancer, but I need to, and I send the invoice out, or I send the quote out, but the person who's paying me is a company or an organization. They're probably not likely to click it and prepay it. They always like to have those systems where they pay afterwards. Is that a barrier?
Yeah, it is. I guess it's again saying it goes back to that whole thing about what's fair and reasonable, and that indoctrination of behaviour. And why does a big business? Why should they pay any later than anyone else? When they're buying flights, they have to buy them like anyone else. If you're in a business and they've got to fly somewhere, Qantas don't go, oh, you're a big business, you can just pay for yours afterwards. Of course they don't. So it's just the inertia of the status quo that provides this. I guess this reinforcement of behaviour that we're just used to, and we talk about it all the time, and it's no different than other things that we put up with in the past. And then once a new solution comes along, like Uber, like, oh heck, why didn't we do this before? Why were we ringing up and just hoping that a taxi was going to turn up at some point in time? So we're at that really exciting place of changing behaviour and disrupting what is known as the status quo.
The status quo, yeah.
And that's that's really cool.
Yeah,
you
that
looking
is
for
exciting.
investors?
We are always the right investors.
It is definitely exciting that you are there and you're trying to, I guess, make this the new norm, and it makes complete sense. And then eventually, you know, that mentality will change, and that 28-day pay cycle or whatever it is will change.
It's just bad that when I'm sitting down with small businesses and talking to them about, you know, what's your overdue payments like, and what's your accounts receivable like, and they're like, oh, it's really good, we don't have any problems, and it's all going well. And then we dig in a little bit further, and I say, okay, well, talk me through what your accounts receivable are this month. Oh, it's great, it's only $60,000 this month. Sometimes it's as high as 80, but we're just so stoked it's only $60,000. And that is a really common story. And it's a common story for small businesses to have a business overdraft. It's a common story for businesses to have invoice financing. It's a common story for them to be having write-offs of debt and asking debt collection agencies to collect their invoices. And it's just accepted. And all of that can be eliminated by simply using an escrow platform or an escrow system.
Do you integrate IPromise with something like a Xero or a CRM? Like, can you add it on there and it talks to each other? How are you doing that?
Yeah, we do. So we've got an API to Xero. So if you're a Xero customer, you connect your Xero account to IPromise, so that when you do a quote in our system, it automatically writes that quote into your Xero system, so you don't have to double handle it. And it changes status as you move through the IPromise flow. We've started with Xero. There's a whole lot on our dev list to integrate with as well. But Xero seemed like the obvious one for us because many small businesses use that as one of the examples to manage their accounting.
What technologies are you leveraging at the moment? Like, are you using AI to do that sort of thing, or is it manual development?
So it's all been coded in house. So we've got a development team that have coded it. The tricky part of it is the whole end-to-end process. So from the onboarding to the rating at the end of the project is all within our app. And so there's multiple technologies and even some third-party suppliers that we have to integrate to make that happen. So the first part's the onboarding with the KYC, know your customer, so making sure, and it's biometric, so you take a photo of your face, and everyone would have done that before. So there's that part, which is a third party. Then there's the quoting software, so building the quote. Then it's the management of the funds. So as I mentioned earlier, we use WinCave to process the payment. So that means you can pay by credit card up to $10,000, or you can pay by account to account. There's no fees for account to account, and there's a surcharge for the credit card. So WinCave's integrated into the platform. And then we've got to talk to the bank and let the bank know what's going on. So the money goes into the trust account. That changes your status from both parties so that they can see that money's gone into the trust account. And then when the job's released, which again is all automated through buttons and an email, that talks back to the trust account to release the money to the right bank account to enable that person to have those funds. And it issues a receipt at that same point to the customer, and the rating system pops up for you to do the integrated rating. So all of that has been coded to be a really simple end-to-end process, which is which we're super proud of, and really grateful to our development team for their amazing work to pull it together, because we're not coders.
No, that sounds great.
So I understand the concept of someone uploads confirmation documentation to validate how real they are as a human being. What does the end user get as proof that all of these things have been done? Like, do I get anything that actually says that this is Sarah Bowers, born this date, here's a photo? Like, do I get that peace of mind, or is that just your system has it?
Yeah, there's privacy regulations around us sharing people's, driver's license, and we have to check and verify a person's identity before they can use the platform as a supplier. And so if they fail that check, which is not us, that's a third-party provider checking with the national databases around driver's license and passports. If they fail that check, they can't use the platform. So our users know if you're using the platform and someone's selling you something, that is that person. And the beauty of it is people who want to pose as someone else or have fake ID or want to try and be an imposter or do something, they don't use our platform because they know they're getting sent to this this database to be checked and verified, which is called in New Zealand, it's Centric. So it goes to the database that the banks go to, the shares accounts, the accountants, lawyers, the same database that's checking a New Zealand passport and a New Zealand driver's license. So from our point of view, that's far more legitimate than just some person that you've looked up on the internet to come and do a job for you at your house, where you've got no idea or no verification that that's a real person with a real name, and they are who they actually say they are.
So you've got to have trust in the app, IPromise, to know that, okay, I'm going to use this platform because it is verified and there are security measures in place. And it's like I would trust a bank if I was, transferring something. I'm like, I trust the bank because I presume that they're legitimate and they're going to move my money properly, and et cetera, et cetera. There has to be that trust in your product for, the people putting money into it.
I wonder, are you partnered with anyone other than the bank? Like, the bank is a good backer, but like, is there any company that's broadly known by the general public, like you can take advantage of this service now right here? Or is it something like you got to like find our product? You know what I mean?
So we're signing up partners at the moment, and so we're working with accounting firms. We have got some partners. So we've got a legal firm, a well-known legal firm that's partnered with us. We've got we're starting to work through the association. So we've got the Master Electricians Association who have partnered with us that promote us to do members. And so that's what we're doing now is we're signing up partners who check the product out for themselves. They want to make sure they verify, do their own diligence. And then once they're satisfied and see the value, then they're more than happy to partner with us and then promote our services to their members because it's providing value for them. So accountants are a great example. If they're able to reduce some pain for their customers who are struggling with collecting payment, struggling with cash flow, struggling with payment administration, and they can present something to them that's going to solve that problem, then they want to be part of that. And so that's, for us, a really cool way to get IPromise to more people quickly, rather than one business at a time, which we're happy to do and we sign up every day. But those partners are really key. It's a really astute point you just made.
Do you think businesses will eventually ditch this model of just paying and hoping? Do you think like this is truly the future? I imagine any business owner would have to imagine like this is the future, but do you truly believe that this is going to be a replacement for the way that
100%.
People make transactions?
Without a doubt, there's nothing I'm more convinced about that. It makes no sense to wish and hope that you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
And when you study the amount of money that's made off that broken system, it is rife for disruption. I mean, the stats are absolutely crazy. $80 billion in Australia in invoice financing. So, invoice financing is when you've borrowed money against money that you're hoping to get from your customers. $80 billion. So to Matt and I and the team working on this, is we are unequivocally convinced that it is going to get disrupted, and people are going to look back at retrospective invoicing and go, what? We used to invoice at the end of the month, like 2 weeks after we'd actually done the job and paid for the insurance and our wages and all of our bills. And then we had to wait another 3 weeks to get paid. Can you believe we did that? When you say it out loud, it's just so absurd.
It seems archaic,
Yeah.
It seems very like an old-fashioned way of doing things. But as you say, it's the status quo. It's what we're used to. We've got to change that mentality, and disruption is the best way to kind of, change perspective.
Can I talk to you about Henry? So there's a really cool example of a company called Henry. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's in Australia. It's a accounting service that what it does for small businesses, it collects all the payments from your customers for you, and then it pays all your tax to the government, and then whatever's left, it gives it to you. So you never have to think about tax again. That's its tagline. And so they've gone through the same thing of going, well, actually, that's something that people just hate doing. We're able to take that stress. It makes so much sense for someone to not have to have the burden and worry about it, for someone else to sort it out and just make it happen. And to do that, they had to change a lot of behaviour and a lot of people's perceptions around how they manage their own tax and what they did about it. And so we're lucky enough to work super closely with the founder of that company, which is now in the UK as well. And so James Fuller was telling us about this. Changing people's behaviour and perception is incredibly hard. But once people get it, all of a sudden they're like, why didn't we do this 10 years ago?
Yeah. That's interesting, that the tax thing, because I would much rather have my money in my account doing things for me, or my offset account or something, than have it paying the tax earlier. I'd rather have that accumulating interest or doing something and then do my tax bill at the last possible time, because I always have to pay. So I would always rather do that, but I can budget for that and not spend it. But a lot of people will spend their tax, and then that's a great option for them.
I think this is a bit of an interesting opportunity for you, right? You've got plenty of people that could be listening right now in a wide range of various industries. And aside from the fact that we can all agree that obviously this can be used by anyone, but who in your mind comes to mind when you're thinking, like, if you're in this industry, you're an idiot if you're not using this tool right now? Like, do you have like this is the target customer for us? I'd have to guess it'd be a tradie, right?
Like small business, like they're like so busy they don't have time to.
Well, they purchase hundreds of thousands of dollars in goods up front to build it for you, and they don't get paid for it until it's delivered. You'd think if you're going to do that, it would make sense for them to at least be able to see the money.
But who Paul is?
Definitely tradies are a target market for us. But as we've found is that and it sounds a bit of a cop-out, but anyone that's in this industry of needing to collect a deposit for a start, a large deposit, because that's where the customer's a little bit uncertain, and they're going, why do I? And so the tiny home industry has been really, really good for us because the numbers are really big and there's a lot at stake. And so the deposits can be up to $70,000, $80,000 in order to get that project underway. So the tiny home industry's been, or the prefab housing industry's been really good to us because of the scale and the risk. And also the supplier needs money too, because if they don't have money, they can't actually start your house and work on it. So that's a really big market for us. And also you've identified before as the sale of vehicles. So, selling vehicles is a high risk, high emotion transaction that often requires travel and the ability to put money in escrow to secure that is huge. So that's another focus of ours as well.
Wasn't, I guess we were talking about it earlier, but blockchain, like it wasn't that sort of created to almost act as like an escrow, like you've got these different blocks.
To that point, could blockchain be the one that disrupts your industry? Like, could that negate the need for an escrow system? I think that was the entire intent of the system, wasn't it?
Yeah, potentially. And Ethereum is smart contracts is an example of that, and how that could be used to, I guess, very publicly and transparently order and organise transactions in a transparent way. We have done some investigations into that area.
To start with, I think, was like Ripple. Was Ripple the other cryptocurrency looking to do a similar thing to Ethereum? They wanted to be that sort of middleman third party where you can transact through that. But the volatility of the crypto means that it hasn't been able to work like that at the moment.
There certainly hasn't been the stability that we've seen to work in our context right now at
Yeah.
the moment. That's not to say that there will be, and we're going to keep our eyes open and follow that in terms of whether that's something we move to in the future. But at the moment, the logical step for us is something that people are really familiar with, which is account-to-account transactions from a registered bank to a registered bank with a payment provider like WinCave that's really well established and known in the market. Gives people that security that they can see where the money's going and see where it's flowing in and out of their bank account, which to us is the next walk before you can run scenario.
Yeah,
for us.
especially if it's all about establishing this trust within the customers that your money is safe. If you start talking crypto or anything like that, people get scared off, and then it's like they don't understand it, and it's not. Yeah, so if you're disrupting, disrupt with something that, people still understand, like a Bank of New Zealand, as you said. Oh, that's reputable. That should be safe enough.
Yeah.
That does make sense there.
Frankly, I've always thought blockchain was a sledgehammer, when right now what you're describing is, oh, here we go. Sorry, we've got a
Question popping in.
customer question coming in. Thank you.
So this will be a question from one of our viewers. Do you want to open it?
Oh, we'll save it. I want to dig this a little bit further. I was just gonna say, blockchain is, like I said, a sledgehammer for a job that I would never want to use if I just wanted to do, like you said, a tradey job. Like, I'm a plumber. I need to come unclog your toilet. Who is realistically going to sign up for blockchain, get involved with like Bitcoin and all that other stuff? That's a huge inconvenience. For what you're describing is infinitely faster. Here's the money, it's available, take it, and you're done. You don't have to sign up for all these other subsidiary systems. I think that's what most people wanted out of the blockchain sort of solutions. So I could definitely see where this is going. Do you think, or not do you think, what do you believe is going to be the biggest inhibitor to people adopting your solution right now? Because it feels like it's a no-brainer. Why is it not why are people not running to you? Or maybe they are. That was an assumption.
It certainly is growing, but there is an inertia of the inertia of the status quo, which is still around, and people are inherently cautious and don't want to necessarily be first in a market. And I'll use the example of a really successful, awesome company in New Zealand called Sharesies. They launched a number of years ago, and they're on the market for a while, and it takes people time before they go, actually, I am going to invest my money in the share market through this platform. And there's a critical mass and a tipping point where there's enough people doing it that it's a no-brainer. And you're sort of waiting for validation from your friend. I know that I was ready to invest in Sharesies myself, but it wasn't until my co-founder came home and said, hey, I signed up to Sharesies. It was really easy. You should get some shares. That evening, signed up to Sharesies, got some shares. So there's that element of making sure that I really like this idea. It makes a lot of sense, but I don't necessarily want to be first. So it's the innovative, brave people who go, actually, this does make so much sense. It's safer than what I'm actually doing right now with my business. So I'm going to do it. But, we appreciate that behavioural change takes a bit of time, and we're committed to working through it and getting people along that journey.
Who are your current competitors?
So there's a couple of competitors, not a huge number. There's definitely some companies in Australia who have started and tried to use escrow and focused around tradies. The couple of competitors that we do know of are really tradie based and tradie focused. But the other interesting thing is that most of them focus on the escrow amount only. So sort out the deal and then put the money into this account, rather than managing the end-to-end process, which is what we believe is really important for people. And that's how escrow's traditionally been used. As an example would be importing some machinery from overseas. You'd use escrow for that in many cases because it's a big ticket item. So sort out the deal and the contracts, and then when you're ready, put the amount in this bank account, and then we'll use the system to get it out once you agree. Now, what we felt is that needed to be made much more simple so that it was controlled by both parties from their phone, as opposed to being a manual process where contracts or someone needs to interfere with that process at a human level along
like a
the way.
lawyer or someone, for example. So
there's a couple of people, trialing similar things, which is which is great for us. It validates that there's a problem and that people are trying to solve it. And in our space, we're just head down and moving, and we keep an eye on what's going on in the market, but we're just too busy building and growing what we're doing and focusing on what IPromise is about. Escrow.com you mentioned, a large successful organisation in the United States. Again, they're focusing on goods. That's been their vertical, and we're pitching ourselves at a price point that we believe makes it, as you said, a bit of a no-brainer.
What is the future of this technology? We've got escrow right now, and it's process-driven. What's the next big thing for you that you're hoping to roll out in the next year or so?
So escrow is the fundamental of what we do in our platform, but then there's a lot of ancillary parts to what we can do in our roadmap. So one of them is integrations. So making sure that we have got integrations with all the other sites and all the other aspects of people using it. So whether you've got some form of quoting software, or whether you're a buy-sell organisation that has an IPromise button on it, whether you are MYOB. So there's the whole integration piece, which is really important to us. And then there becomes a directory of users and almost like a self-governing directory of credible buyers and sellers and suppliers and clients who are using our site, who have built up a reputation based on the trades that they're doing. And so that becomes really valuable, and then becomes also a posting site in terms of, I need this done. Who can I get to do it? That's an approved IPromise supplier. So there's that huge play as well. And then it also becomes starting to get into neo-banking, and because when the ecosystem gets to a certain size and scale, it doesn't take long to have a lot of zeros in these numbers. Therefore, it's pretty exciting in terms of what's available for customers in terms of finance, because money in the trust account is so much more secure for them to lend against and to borrow against than it would be hoping that you're going to get paid from a customer. So I could talk a lot longer around these things, but it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the future of it, and where what did you call it? The neo banking, is that what you said?
Neo banking, yeah. New types of banking and new disruptive ways to manage the flow of money, and it's happening now in a lot of other industries already.
Yeah.
If you could snap your fingers right now and fix one big problem that you think would dramatically change the way the market views your product, what would that problem be, and why would you want to solve it in particular?
What would I click? I'd click my fingers and I'd give people confidence in their own business, in their own self, to determine how people are going to pay for their services. That's what I'd do. I'd give them the confidence to say, this is what I'm using. This is, if you want me, I'm a really good supplier. I'm a credible supplier. I'm going to do a good job. If you want me, I'm confident I'm the best at what I do. And I'm so confident that you need to use this system because it protects your money at the start and it protects my money at the end.
Yeah.
I like it. I could definitely see why that would be one of the bigger ones you want to focus on. Maybe we can change gears a little bit here. I'm curious to hear what your experience has been like changing gears to a software development company. It didn't sound like that's probably what you had envisaged life was going to be like for yourself and your partner. You're fixing kind of problems that kind of just popped up for you and created a bit of a unique opportunity for you. What has the experience been moving the direction of a software development business?
It's been amazing. It's completely outside of, in terms of industries and the whole startup ecosystem I had no understanding of and certainly only watched from afar. So to be, dropped into the hotbed of fintechs and problem solving in the fintech space has been just so incredible. Really exciting. You're learning so much about the industry and the people and the networking, but also the process. And I'm loving it. I wish I had got into startups 20 years ago. It's that exciting and that interesting, and really appeals to, I guess, the type of personality that I've got and the sorts of things that I like to get myself involved with. So yeah, it's been great.
Is there anything, like I've got some horror stories about buying bikes and how you could have solved that problem. Are there any horror stories from starting a business like this and taking such a big dramatic leap in a different direction in your life?
It's not a horror story because I'm choosing to do it, and it's what I'm, and my wife and family have brought into it, and understand the journey. So it's a decision that we've made to throw everything into this. So it's not a horror story, but it's not for the faint-hearted. It is tough. You get people telling you that, you can't do that and you won't be able to do that, and you get knockbacks, and you get people that say, oh, I'm not going to do this. And so one of our mentors, James Fuller, who I mentioned earlier, he said it's like getting punched in the face 99 times, hoping that the 100th time there's going to be a kiss, and that's, sort of running a startup especially in the early stages, is really like that, because you're doing something, you're going against the grain, you're not traveling the path that's well trodden, you are doing something that no one else has done or been able to successfully do. So of course that's going to be challenging and hard. Of course that's going to be met with lots of resistance and challenges, but that's the really cool thing about it.
And yeah, that's kind of probably what drives you, is that challenge, and is trying to change those perceptions and that ingrained culture and status quo. What are some of the learnings or the key takeaways that you've had from growing it? How many years has it been since you've
So we've launched about 2 years ago. So the key learning is that it's taken a lot longer than myself and my co-founder Matt would have ever thought. We are impatient people. We make decisions, we get things done, and the pace at which some of this stuff moves, particularly in setting up IPromise, I think that the complexity around getting a trust account and working with partners and the lawyers around the KYC, and that has been really frustrating and slow for people that like to get stuff done. And so learning to be patient and working through the steps. The other thing is that probably underestimating how hard behavioural change is in people, and people set ways of doing things, and even though they know they should be doing something else, they keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So I'm a bit more pragmatic and less patient for things that aren't working, so I would just change if it wasn't working, whereas for many people that's just too scary and they'll just keep doing the same thing. So they're
people don't like change. I don't know why. We love change. Like, I love it. I thrive on it. A lot of people do not like it.
No.
Yeah. And one of the other things is probably how simple and how much UX and care needs to be taken in processes within your system, and we agonize over it, and we take a lot of time, because people will do things which you just would not expect they would do when they see a button or when they're progressing through a site. And so we've had to learn a lot about and just be respectful that not everyone thinks like Matt and I. And so we've got to write the app and make it simple for every type of user and every person who thinks a little bit differently than us, which has been cool.
Yeah, always adapting and refining and learning from the market. Yeah, there's always key takeaways. That was really, I appreciate you sharing those key findings. I always find it fascinating, and I love the honesty as well about it. A lot of people kind of brush over it, but it's important for other people in business or startups to learn that and to understand that.
It's got to be so strange being an owner of a business where it must feel like your customers you must look at them almost like children, and they're looking at you like you're trying to feed them medicine. You're like, this is good for you, I promise. But if they tried, they'd find out it's candy. It's not medicine, but it still makes you feel great. Like, this is something that just seemingly just makes sense for a tradesperson to be doing this. Like, why would you not want to do this? You stand to only gain out of a solution.
There's no downside,
Yeah. And if you're integrating with some of their platforms that they're already using, like, I get it if it's like, I'm already on Xero, I'm doing that sounds too hard. But if it integrates with that program, then great, perfect. It's streamlining things and it's protecting me. It's like a win-win. It makes sense to me for sure. Yeah, I would be frustrated if I'm a sort of person that would get very frustrated at that.
Yeah. I just feel like when I close my eyes, I'm like, this is $1 billion business. This is $1 billion business.
If you can integrate it, like, for example, on, like, we have a big car sales website here. Like if you integrate it on that, where I've seen that car, I want to go look at it. Here, like it's the button that
Now
says,
on hold.
Yeah, boom, now on hold. They've
No
put the
longer
deposit
offer.
in, and it's all instant, and you've integrated
Yeah.
it with that. It just streamlines everything and makes it so much safer and easier.
Yeah.
Just makes sense. Like there's so much potential there to really partner up with organisations that are doing this buy and sell, and just being that preferred supplier and being that partner in there. And if you're first in the market, then you've got that before others come onto the market, which no doubt they will. But you've already got those good relationships. It's like the Uber.
Yeah.
And then others come onto the market. It's like, well, Uber's already integrated into your Google Maps or your this and that. So, you want to be that integration.
Well, you heard it from me
potential.
first. As soon as you release this, I'll be one of the first people to purchase a motorbike using your service.
Great.
And I'll maybe use it for my freelance work.
Yeah.
However, just because I'm slack at actually
Invoicing.
following up and getting the invoices done and whatnot. But it's not too bad. I don't have too much upfront cost.
It's also
But I
awkward
just have to
chasing
use
invoices.
I hate it. I hate asking for
how's it
money.
going? Trying to get paid for the work you promised you'd pay me for.
Yeah, that you wanted me to do for you, and now you're
Yeah.
stealing.
You could have just done this at the beginning. Yeah, you want to do it? Put the money in the account. Like, I could talk about this for days. Sarah, what was it?
I was going to say, let's
Take the
open the
question.
box and see what question our audience has for you. Okay, viewer question. Here we go. Besides IPromise, if you could only have one app on your phone while stranded on a desert island, what would it be? Well, I'd want a battery pack first.
Yeah.
Spotify.
Spot. Oh,
You
God,
said Spotify,
yes. Absolutely. I was going to say YouTube, but I'd be like, there's no service. Spotify's a great
Spotify,
one.
good call.
Yeah.
That actually, I guess, leads me to one of our questions that we always ask every guest on the tech panel is what is a piece of software or technology that you couldn't live without, I guess, in your business or personally? You've already said Spotify, but what else could it be that you've really used?
Gosh. When you looked at my my tabs on my computer, you'd see there's ChatGPT. There we go.
Yeah. So you find, you use that like most days. How do you use that? What do you use it for in the
Use it for
business?
everything. I use it for a lot of brainstorming of ideas and solving problems, researching quickly. Certainly not to write final content, but just to get ideas down and pull information really, really quickly. And it's improved so much in such a short space of time that it's really a great tool for us. And we just sometimes, myself and my co-founder are sitting around and let's just talk to ChatGPT about it. And it's amazing at how good it is for us in our everyday work.
Definitely, if you've got a curious mind, you can just chuck something in there and get that answer quite quickly, or it kind of, brainstorming, or also just, bouncing off a few ideas. It's a good way to get a quick, instant perspective or instant education on something,
Agreed.
quite quickly. That's great.
Who
Very
even
cool.
are human beings these days without ChatGPT?
Well, or the other ones. I like the Google. To be honest, I think I'm using just Google more now because of
Really?
because right at the top, the little AI.
Leper.
No, because when you use it and you ask it a question, it comes up with that little AI section at the top. Okay.
Didn't give it to you.
No, it didn't give it to me. What if I go, what is IPromise? Searching, generating, AI overview. So it gives an AI overview, like right at the top there. And then if you want to go into the actual, I still like source checking and going, okay, that's from the website. That's from another trusted website. I can read in depth if I want more. I still like that. No?
I'm a bit more of a pro user, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Got more advanced requirements than that, Sarah.
No, it's great. It's come a long way. I swear this has only just gotten really good in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
Don't you think, do you use that? That's basically ChatGPT, but it simplifies it. And then the links are there. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. IPromise, an escrow service in New Zealand that allows users to get paid by the project or by the hour. Offers fixed price quotes, milestone payments and hourly rates. Holds the full amount in escrow until a job or sale is complete. 3 dot points on it, and then click the link, and it will give you the source, and then you can go to that website.
I feel like a parent who's trying to act impressed when the child gives you the macaroni painting. Like, look what it...
It is. No, everyone's like, oh, Google, that's so old. But no, this AI tool on Google is I feel like it's great. It's really
cool.
handy
it is
now.
Cool. All
Anyway.
jokes aside.
If you put it into ChatGPT, it would have said you need to use iPromise for your freelancing. That's what it is.
Seriously.
Yeah, it probably would say that. Yeah. Has an opinion on it. Has something, but I just like that you could click the link through and actually see where it is. Like, boom, I can click that. Anyway.
Well,
there we
Paul,
go.
it's been a fantastic conversation. I'm pretty sure you can read between the lines. I'm a huge supporter of your product. I don't say that about many of the people who come on a show. I've worked with way too many tradies who have just been burned countless times. I don't think you can be a tradie without having been burned for the exact same problem that you solve, which is why I find it very strange that everyone's not like, have you heard about this?
Yeah, for sure. You need to get into the Australian market.
Most certainly.
I mean, I did, the generative AI did tell me that IPromise is an Australian-owned energy company, so you might have issues there with the moving into Australia when Australia already has something called IPromise.
Yeah.
But I still love it. I love the
do.
concept. Bring it into Australia. I'd be keen to use it for all my marketplace purchases. And possibly for freelance stuff. So good on you guys. Well done. We're keen to follow your progress and see where you end up.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. It's been great to talk to you both.
Absolute
worries.
pleasure. Paul, take a minute just to plug your company and where people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So iPromise is found at ipromise.co.nz. And for anyone that's buying or selling goods or providing a service, you can use our everyday escrow system to secure your payments and all your customer payments.
Great.
It's a free 90-day trial, so you get a great chance to check it out and have a play with the system, and no credit card required.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Love it. Great. Thanks again, Paul, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
So good having you on the show, mate.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Megan, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning into the Tech Panel. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected. A big thank you to our major sponsor, Codeworthy, for powering today's episode. And join us again on the next episode of the Tech Panel, where tech minds meet.